What's up, everybody? We are back with the first official podcast of 2025. I'm broadcasting to you live from the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas. And I had this podcast with Megan and Megan already on the schedule. And they were so kind to join me. A little bit of an impromptu studio. Here's the creator space in Las Vegas. But Megan and Megan, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, so fun. And you're in Vegas. We love that.
Yeah, Vegas is, I like Vegas for about 24 hours. 4 days is going to kill me, but, 24 hours is great. So, so just to set the stage a little bit.
Well, you're just lucky you're not breathing in. I would say you're just lucky you're not in LA breathing in the toxic air like I'm doing right now.
So sad. Well, I guess we should start the show by wishing everybody who was affected by the fires the best. And, we'll post in the show notes some ways that you can get involved and give if you guys want to give back. But yeah, so many friends and colleagues affected by the fires. I've been in a little bit of oblivious, being here in Vegas, but I'm sure it'll set in when I get back to Southern California. But that being said, Megan and Megan, so excited to have you guys on. I found out about your brand when I reached out to you guys for Founders Made. And then when I started digging into it, I was just really excited about the community that you guys are building. And we'll get into how you guys met and what you guys are doing. But I'm also super excited because you guys have invited me into the family as a podcasting partner. So I will be at some Modern Day Wife events throughout the year, podcasting with their sponsors, getting to know their community up front and personal. But so Megan and Megan, why don't you guys both give me a little bit of an intro and tell me how you guys teamed up on this awesome community.
Oh, it feels like so long ago now, Megan. Don't you feel like it has been 5 years, which is crazy. I can just start. But essentially we met during COVID, which is wild. So I'm Canadian. So I'm Megan Aliyev. I'm Canadian. I started Modern Day Wife in Vancouver, Canada. So that's a fun fact. So I was originally living on the West Coast. Now I live in the East Coast outside Toronto. But back in 2020, I guess this would have been June of 2020, I was hosting a Modern Day Wife event. Kind of something like this, actually. I feel like I haven't done many Zoom calls lately or Zoom interviews because we've been in person a lot. But I was hosting an event through Modern Day Wife over Zoom. And I don't know if you know the Cardones, Elena and Grant Cardone, but you might know them.
Yeah, they've built an amazing brand. So such a huge community and very cool what they've been doing.
Yeah, they've really been making huge waves lately. So long story short, this is at the time when, if you remember, Elena launched her book, How to Build an Empire. So she was actively promoting this. And I was doing a program through my church. And as one of the things that I was doing with that, I wanted to promote more people having a successful marriage. It was very fitting with Modern Day Wife. Her book is primarily based around that. So we decided to do an event together, and it would be a completely non-for-profit event, meaning all proceeds would go to a charity. So her and I picked one of our favorite charities, which is Drug Free World. And so I just was on Instagram researching who was running the chapter in America, because there's lots of chapters, all across the globe. And the main premise of that, which obviously Megan can speak to this more, is, really sharing the truth about drugs and, how they can negatively impact your life. So long story short, reached out to this random Instagram account. Megan responded, and she actually was the individual who was running this specific chapter. Long story short, her and I really, connected on this event. We had a blast. We did some Instagram lives promoting the event. It was a lot of fun. And then afterwards, she was like, "Hey, what are you doing with Modern Day Wife? Can I work with you?" And I was like, why don't we give it a shot? I had been looking to work with someone on it. I mean, when I started it was cool. It was fun to start on my own to keep the integrity of the brand. I mean, I had another company that I sold before, and that's a whole other story. But I really did want to start on my own, but I did want to have a business partner. I think things are so much more fun when you're working with others. And then that's where Megan came into the picture. And then we've been obviously together ever since. So pretty cool.
I love that. So why don't you start by just telling our audience a little bit about what is the Modern Day Wife brand? What is the community? Like, you guys have, it seems like you guys are building a little empire with products and a community, but also events. So why don't you walk people through kind of the portfolio?
Sure. I'll let the other Megan go.
Yeah, go for it, Megan.
I love that, the
Sounds
portfolio.
so
I love that. Yeah, it's our, what was that word? The family of brands. Anyways, okay, so yeah, it is really exciting what we've expanded it from, because we obviously had very big goals, and we have accomplished many of those goals. And then you get like annoyed because you're trying to get to the next level. And I think it gets harder the harder each level you go to, right? We've gotten to a certain level and it's like, oh my God, how do we get to the next level? But in any event, we're essentially a lifestyle company. We're Canadian and American, because Megan's Canadian and I'm American. So our events are in both countries, although we have members and followers from all over the world. And what we do, so yes, we have a beauty box, we have a podcast, we have a magazine, and what we're mostly known for are luxury events at luxury venues. But it's all for the purpose of what our company is, which is providing women with community and resources in which to thrive in all areas of life. So career, relationships, home life, social, personal, the full 360 view. And we're really excited about what we're doing because no one's doing this. There is no, I actually was on a sales call today. I was on a sales call today with a company, and I was like, look, you have like Founder Made, you have these other groups, these organizations that are putting on events that are just for like wholesale and trade shows and getting buyers to find your brand. Then you have women's groups that are just about scaling your business. You're a female founder, you're trying to get more investors, blah, 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 blah. Then you have maybe like the mama, the pregnant women, and they're strolling around in the park and so on. But there's no group out there that's like, well, we want to thrive and we want to be winning on all these areas of life. And Megan and I have kind of grown with our brand. Like, I was pregnant when we met. I had a baby. Megan got married. She moved across the country. Her husband and her role in the business and so on has grown, and all these various different things that we've been living what we're talking about in our brand. So we just find it really exciting. Like, when people come to our events, they are connecting with women that are like, yeah, like I want to have maybe other purposes in a career, but I also like, yeah, I want to have a great relationship. I want to be a great mom. I want to look sexy and fit and go to the gym. I want to know the best contouring to do on my face. Like, we're kind of girly girls. I'm just going to be honest with you, and we're proud of it. And I don't care if someone doesn't like
it. Nothing to be ashamed of. You know, I think there's too much of a stigma out there about like body positivity and all this stuff now. And, you know, I don't think there's anything wrong with women who want to be beautiful. You know?
I love that.
It's really, you just made our day.
That is actually, it's so funny because I was talking to my husband the other day, and I don't know if it was like a quote in a movie or something you're watching, and the woman was talking about like spending time in the mirror and like pampering herself, and then my husband was like, well, what's wrong with that? I'm like, it's true. What is wrong with that? Nothing, right? Like, it is nice to look good. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I love it. You know, it's interesting. I think you guys are really tapping into this. I don't know if you guys remember, but Sheryl Sandberg, the chief operations officer of Facebook, wrote a book. I think it was like 10 years ago, called Lean In. And it was like, how do women have it all, right? Like, how do you have the career? How do you have the great marriage? You know, how do you have kids? And the reality is, you know, I know it because my wife sacrificed a lot of that for our family. Like, my wife carried water for our family when we were in our 20s. She was the highfalutin, you know, agency branding girl. She made more money than me in our early careers. She always had the stable jobs that were, you know, health insurance, and we were getting to buy our first house based on her credit, not mine. And she really gave me the room to be an entrepreneur, which was awesome. But then when we decided to have kids, it was like, okay, well, you know, I'm going to retire and basically raise our children. And you know, sometimes I think she might regret some of it. She definitely doesn't regret spending time with our kids and being able to be with them for that part of their life. But I wish she would have been able to discover a group like yours to where she could, you know, maybe not do the, you know, Fortune 500 corporate job, but she could still be an entrepreneur. She could still flex her creative muscles and, you know, have the family be able to take care of the home, but also still thrive as an entrepreneur. And I feel like you guys are really empowering women to have that, have that
I
vibe.
love that. Megan, I feel like Dylan is touching on the seasons of life, which apparently has been trending. We've had this new thing, which I think we need to like trademark it actually, because it's so interesting that you said that, because even a lot of my friends lately, like I have a friend who's a fashion designer and I just saw her on this cruise and she said to me, which is so funny, Megan, I haven't even told you the story, but she looked at me and she has 5 kids and now she has a fashion label. And she's like, well, Megan, it's seasons of life. Like I was a mom and raised my kids, but now I have my fashion label because like this is the chapter that I'm in. So I think it's true. Like it's just different times. Like you do get to have it all in full circle over the years, but to have it all at once is, I think it's hard unless you have a lot of support, which is our community provides that. But it is interesting that I think women are understanding that it's not you have to give up something, it's just trading maybe the time in which you're doing it.
Yeah, no, I love that. So, the brand is called Modern Day Wife. Do you have to be married in order to be part of the community?
No.
Nice. So it's also for the aspirational woman who is looking for the right partner, and she wants to get married and it's part of her plan, but she hasn't quite found that special guy yet.
We actually have, when we survey our audience after the events, 50% of them are not married.
Wow,
So cool.
that's wild when wife is in the brand name.
Yeah, so it's and then there's some women who come who are divorced. There are people who have kids. There's people who don't have kids. There's stay-at-home moms. There are career women. There's all different types. So I'm glad you asked that. Also, the other thing that Megan has also said from the very beginning is that the first Modern Day Wife event was a co-ed event. So we actually like when men come. We like when there's men who are repping some of the brands or on the panel, because we like that energy of men and women together. And also Megan and I hopefully Megan will be okay. I speak on her behalf.
I'm sure it's fine.
We love men. Like we love men. We don't have anything against men. So we are like, eventually when we have more of a capability, like we do have different pillars. So we have like a modern day wellness series. We have modern day beauty trademarked. We could have modern day fashion shows, and we could put on modern day man events. And perhaps that one could be like, my vision is like that Porsche runway thing in California where you could like test Porsches in the space.
Yeah, that place is
and have
cool.
Nail panels, the watch brand of this, and like, and that there could be modern day date, like with Bumble sponsoring it, where it's dating events where people could meet their significant other. So we're just trying to, I think we're like really the feedback that we're getting, because we do so many sales calls, we speak to so many people. And what we're finding is that actually this is really what women want. And I think they haven't felt that they could say this. They haven't found the group. I think we're, yes, like what you said earlier, that we're tapping into something that is really exciting, because it's something that hasn't been talked about for so long. And women are kind of coming full circle, even myself, right? Like, I wish that I knew a lot of the things that I know now, having a 4-year-old kid and having the business that I didn't know when I was starting. So we're hoping through the various things that we do, whether it's our podcast or content or at the events, to also educate the up and coming girls on being able to make decisions based on more information, and not just like what you're supposed to be doing, but that there are other options. There isn't just one way, and you're not correct as a woman if you only do things one way. The idea was that we were supposed to have options.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. It's you hear about a lot of women finding themselves like, in their maybe later years and really struggling in the dating market, because the dating apps have really like made it like a really toxic environment, and they're not meeting the people that they want to, and they wish that they maybe thought about some of these subjects when they were younger. But I want to switch a little bit to how you guys market and find customers, because my audience primarily is a marketing audience, and my audience is always looking, how do they tap into communities that have affinity and kind of lend their brand equity off of what you guys are building. So I've noticed that influencers have been a huge part of your guys' strategy from day one. Some could probably say that you guys are both influencers yourself. You guys have decent followings on social media. But I noticed some of your very first events were almost entirely influencers. So can you talk about how social media creators and leveraging social is used in your guys' marketing strategy, and how do you leverage and work with influencers, and how are they also part of the community?
Sure. I can answer from the start and then I'll pass it to Megan because she's actively working on that program now with someone on the team. But I think in the beginning, it's exactly what you said. Strategically, from the very first event that I did. So with Modern Day Wife, it was an influencer event. So before the event to the public, which was in February of 2020, in December of 2019, I hosted a brunch that was just for influencers to communicate the brand to them. And so I think it's really important because I knew that in order for something to grow, you need more people to know about it, right? That is kind of a stable piece of data that Megan and I operate on, right? It's also Grant Cardone. If people don't know you, they don't flow you. So I wanted there to be this pre-hype before actually going to the market, launching what Modern Day Wife was. Like, what is this? What is Megan working on? What is this buzz? What is happening with Modern Day Wife? Where they could see prominent influencers, and it was in Vancouver, and the Vancouver community that got to attend this super aesthetic, very high end, luxurious event. Because I think the other thing too, which I am a big fan of, because obviously I buy products all the time, I used to have a career in retail buying, is aesthetics sell first. That's what I think. Right? It's even when you meet a person, right? They look great. You might go up to them and they open their mouth and maybe it's exactly the total package or maybe it's not. But when you think of something, ambiance always is that first impression, whether it's an event or our restaurants. So that's what I wanted to do, partnered with the fact of spreading communication. So we've always leveraged this. And then when I met with Megan, it was the same thing. Even for the event that we had, we always had affiliates because it is a perk, right? At the end of the day, when you have influencers being a part of what we're doing, it's not only beneficial for spreading Modern Day Wife, but it also helps them grow their brand. I mean, I know
Totally.
tons of ladies that have blown up and gotten deals from us. And I'm not saying we're
Wow.
taking anything from that. I mean, that's also another thing. But I mean, that's the whole point, right? It's like I give to you, you give to me, but there are people that utilize this community and have grown their business. So I don't know what Megan wants to add, but it's a very interesting model. And I think anyone who's not involved in doing something like that is definitely missing out. It's the bread and butter of what we're doing, essentially.
Yeah, and also you hit on something that's really important, I think, which is aesthetics, right? Everybody is looking to participate in things, whether it's the things that they buy and the clothes that they wear, or the events that they go to, or the hotels that they stay at. Everything is about getting that digital passport stamp for your Instagram page. It's not like a lot of people pick travel destinations now based on the video that they know that they're going to be able to create while they're on that trip. And people hiring professional videographers to follow them around when they travel. I mean, let's face it, personal brand is everything now. And you want to put yourself in environments that look aesthetically beautiful and that are going to show up great on camera.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely been our strategy with our events. Megan and I always say at the end of the day, we even had this conversation back in from the November event, and I was like, we can't cut the budget on the one thing that creates exactly what you said. It was entertainment for the event or the photo ops, like, right? Like, obviously, every event's a bit different, and you obviously have to strategize because you need to make money and things need to be profitable. But you can't cut the thing that is the one thing that people are going to see. That is the marketing dollars, right? That is helping us produce the sales. So it is quite interesting because it is something that we think with for sure.
There's more that I want to say on this too.
Yeah.
That I think is really important, especially for you're mentioning the brands that want to know about marketing. Here's the thing too, like there's so much. I was actually talking to a friend of mine he's a very successful businessman and investor. And I was like, there are a lot of phone calls where people are throwing around the abbreviations. Well, what's the ROI and the KPI and the influencers this and they didn't perform and blah, blah, blah. And it's sort of like, here's the deal, guys. Like, it's going to take a lot of work. It's going to take a lot of influencers. It's going to take massive quantities. So also it's not just like, well, that program didn't work. Like that influencer didn't perform. It's like, Like, do you realize how much you have to promote now to be
So
successful? So that's the only thing too. Like
Yeah.
people also like managing expectations was my like mantra for 2024. 2025 is magic. I'm going back to magic and not managing expectations.
Yeah.
I love that.
So, but managing expectations last year was like, look, like, what is the result that you're expecting? And do you really think in today's world with how competitive it is, that it's just going to be like, well, that program didn't work? It's like, no, you have to flank it with 10 other programs and 50 other influencers and this UGC and this one and this group and so on. Like, I even like with our New York event recently was like, oh yeah, like there's some basic things that I needed to put in to create the event, like the event partner, more media, more, it has to be more and more of everything. So if there's one thing too that your listeners get out of this too, is it's like someone could be listening like, oh, influencers, oh, that didn't, I was on a call today and they were like, we spent $50,000 on an influencer dinner and we got nothing out of it. That's exact. I just heard that today on a call. And I didn't say anything because obviously I'm a sales call, but I'm just like, well, what did you guys do wrong? Right? Like, it's not like there is so much, I really feel strongly about this, that it is the magnitude. It's how much are you doing and how much work are you putting into it? And you can't just pinpoint, well, that didn't work. It is going to be a lot of work to produce success. Anyways, I'm going on and on.
No,
but
it's great.
I love it. And I think another thing is that brands sometimes, especially newer brands that are so ROI focused, they don't look at the full platter of what an influencer brings to the table. Yes, they're media, of course. They have an audience, and that audience will, from time to time, buy things. But they're also creating brand awareness. If they are showing up to events, they're literally the carrot that people want to see and want to interact with at your event. Hopefully, if you're smart, you're capturing tons of content with these influencers, both with them and yourself, because you need to have 1 to 3 vertical videos a day to put on your TikTok page. So you can also tap into the influencers audience for your media buys and target. So look, like influencers are definitely performance media, but there are a whole host of other things in the marketing funnel that a lot of brands still, they just focus on the sale. And if they don't get an immediate sale back from a program, then they're on to the next channel. But yeah, it seems like you guys are approaching it the right way and you guys are thinking the long game.
Yeah. We've done a lot of, actually, you made me think about that, what you were saying, Dylan. A lot of things consistently for years. Like, actually, Megan, when we look at the things that we do for the event that produce a result, a lot of it's been the same. Obviously, it's expanded and pivoted, but we haven't really changed the formula. So I think sometimes too, like when people build a brand, like you said, they're trying this and that, or they fire this agency and they go and do this weird thing instead of just sticking to it, right? Like the best people that get our results too are the ones that do the events for the entire year, right? I mean, also too, I think brands that switch influencers all the time. I mean, exactly to what Megan said, how much do you have to put out until someone actually sees it? I'm sure there was or is some statistic on that, right? But I think it is a number of times over. And I think people just stop promoting because they don't hear a response. And so you just need to keep doing it.
That's a great point.
Right?
Yeah.
So
I want to talk about your guys' brand partnerships, because I think that's a really interesting component. So obviously you have to make money. You've got the door, you've got your subscription, you've got tickets for the events, but I imagine the brands are a big part of your monetization strategy. What I thought was interesting when I was doing the research on you guys is it seems like the brands that you bring in are very synergistic. They don't feel forced. They don't feel like they're out of place. They don't feel like they're necessarily marketing a product, but they're more providing an experience to your guests. Can you talk about how, you go about selecting brand partners? Are you guys very selective on who you let in, and because that, they have to elevate the experience too? Can you talk about a little bit about your, what types of brands do you like working with and why?
I think Megan's stricter on this, right? Like sometimes there will be an Instagram page. We'll look at, someone reaches and they send us, we look at their Instagram and Megan's like, yeah, this is not on brand. Like, it's not going to work. And I'm like, well, maybe the fashion show, like, we'll tell them which items to choose from the website. I try to sometimes make things work a little bit more, but Megan definitely helps to keep things on track.
That's funny.
Nice.
Well,
That's what a great partnership is about, right? Is
yeah.
somebody to the brand owner keeping the salesperson in check.
Yeah.
We've like learned a lot though. I mean, one thing that's been cool, and I mean, Megan is so good at it. And there's actually two other girls that do actually a majority of the selling. So we can't take credit for all of the great brands that come into this event because we have great people who know what to look for. But I think for me, the one thing I got trained for this, which is cool, right? Like it's interesting to see how training from previous years has helped you, is I had a girl who mentored me and she was hardcore. Her name is Christina in retail buying. And so she was so on me because I used to work at Fairmont as a buyer, and it would be like, this was high end and it fit the brand profile and that was cheap. And it's like, no, like Megan, you can't get that. And she would used to like, she really was on me about some things that I thought were cool. And then she'd be like, no, like this is not cool. Like, how does that fit with what you're trying to do? Right. So it is interesting how that comes to play because I think it's help us decipher like, okay, sometimes it's better to say no than take the money because the result would be worse. And I think Megan and I have learned that a lot over the years. Like when we try to push something or we take it because we need to meet the budget, there's always something that blows up. So it's like never you know what I mean? It's never the right thing to do. So sometimes it's better to keep the integrity.
Also, sometimes like, yeah, same thing. Like you try to make it work for a budget, but a person is so problematic. They don't sign their contract. They don't pay their deposit. You're texting them 1,000 times. Like you're trying to bend over backwards and you're like, are they committed? Or are they not committed? And it's like, at the end of the day, like that person's probably clogging up your own flows because they're so negative and they're causing you so much trouble and they're so inconsiderate that it ends up making it that you don't make sales. You have to be willing to like be like, this isn't going to work for us, like to have a partnership like this. Because, like the other thing you have to realize, and this is something that I've also like really learned more empathy being a business owner, is that like businesses and buying things and so on it's an exchange. It's not that you're just the person buying. So you're like the elite and you're getting all this. No, someone's providing a service for you. So you're going to do better if you actually respect each other and work forward together, as opposed to always having this idea of like, it's never going to be good enough. And I'm going to try to find something wrong so I can get a refund and so on. I know I'm going into a different subject, but like we have.
No, I think you're right.
So
this
true.
idea that there's this idea smallest clients squeaky wheel. And it makes sense. I think sometimes, not every client is a great client just because they've got a checkbook.
Yeah.
All right. So
Yeah.
I know I only have 30. I know I only have 30 minutes with you guys, so I wanted to touch base on a little note from your guys' background, which I found in common. So you guys both were in pageants. Can you tell me a little bit about, what did that do for your
Did you do a pageant?
I didn't do pageant, but I worked with a lot of pageant women with my nonprofit.
Oh, okay.
Very flattering. Thank you. I'm the first pageant girl. But finish your question.
All right. Yeah. Well. All right. Well, Megan E. Tell me about what did being in pageants do for you? I've heard great things as far as it being a leadership, really about leadership and like empowerment and stuff like that. So how did pageants kind of inform your worldview and what you bring to the business?
Yeah. So I had never done pageants growing up. I had always watched them with my mom on TV. And last year, that's crazy. Yeah. Last year I was like, okay, it was in April of 2024. And I kind of had this lingering idea to do one, and I knew the cutoff to like enroll for this pageant, which was in July, was in April. And I'm kind of one of those people, I do better when I have a lot going on. I'm a maniac. I'll always be a maniac, even if it's just like things I need to do in my house. I like to do like 1,000 things in a day because I'm just a better person like that. So I was like, sure, I'm just gonna do this pageant. Had no idea what I was getting into, but to your point exactly, it was honestly a life-changing experience. Not to add that I also won, which is really fantastic. But I mean, thank you. Yeah, it was really cool. It changed me. Like, I mean, obviously with modern day wife Megan and I get to public speak so often. So for us, like we're both very lucky that we naturally get to talk a lot in front of a lot of people. So that was a huge strength. But I feel like the one thing that I had never really confronted, which is kind of crazy as a woman, was actually that feminine part of you of walking in heels and like moving your hips and actually like being a model on stage. I mean, that wasn't something that I've ever done, that I had to learn. And I think that gave me a completely different level of confidence because you learn to trust yourself even more. So I loved that piece of it because that for me was different, right? It was just different. I would say, I've always been someone who's confident, but that was really special. And I hated doing the coaching classes. So I find when you hate something, it's always better for you in the end, right? Because obviously there's
Yeah, it's like
something I'm
a hard
working
workout.
through. Yeah, so there's like that
I
own
didn't know that.
self-discovery. Yeah, that piece of it. And then the crazy piece is like you get there and obviously I already knew this because I did have a coach and she said everyone's going to be beautiful so you can't even think about that. Like you need to focus on yourself. And it is true. You get there, everyone's gorgeous, everyone has hair and makeup, but it was honestly like the perfect week of my entire life because it would be like hanging out with 42 other ladies that are just like you, like super extroverted, love being active in their communities, are leaders, have a lot going on. Everyone was married, they have kids, they have goals and purposes of their own. So the whole week, it was not catty at all because everyone was going back to a life that was amazing. If there wasn't anyone there, it's also an investment, right? It costs about $20,000 to do. So
Wow.
you're with people who are of caliber, you know what I mean? Like you're usually attacked by someone that doesn't have things in their life, right? That's sad to say, but the people that are, like they're obviously there's something missing for them, which is unfortunate. So there wasn't any of that. And then the owners of the pageant system have great values. They are, I think, Christian, so very faith-based, but I love that because I feel like they had something going on. And then, of course, the pageant itself was promoting, being married and being active in your community and working with your spouse, which I think a lot of people need more of, right? I think marriages in general are a tough thing, right? Like it's
Yeah.
tough. It's hard to be married and there's not a lot of tools and there's more things destroying marriage than promoting marriage, right? In society. So it's easy for people's marriages to crumble because think of how much negative influence there is from promiscuous things to drugs and alcohol to fighting each other, whatever, right? So the system is
And as
you're
we
right. We know
covered,
there's OnlyFans. Like there's so much that destroys a marriage. So the fact that the pageant is actually promoting being married and everyone there is like with their husband that week, it's really cool. So long and short of it is yes, I loved it. It was so much fun. And then of course it's helped me connect with so many more people and do so much with the platform. I mean, the last thing I'll say, because I've kind of just gone on a really long run-on sentence, which is not very pageant-like because you're supposed
Oh,
to be
good.
concise, but it's fine, is I think the favorite thing that I've got to do this year was I hosted a gratitude workshop for girls ages 8 to 13, and it was so amazing. Like talking to them about goals and stuff because it's such a hard time. I think that age group, I remember myself personally, like very much bullied during that age group. So it was nice to be able to show them that, hey, like a regular girl like me can do all of this and you can do it too. Because
Yeah.
it's not like I came from some special cookie cutter rich life. Like I was a very lower middle class girl who just had dreams and someone believed in me, like my parents, realistically. So it starts with having good parents, I think. But that's the long and
Yeah.
short of it. So I hope
I
I have a
love,
girl one day so she can do pageants.
I love it. Yeah, I have 9 and 11-year-old daughters, and they do modeling and acting, and
Aw.
some of the kids at their school sometimes bully them because they're probably jealous. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's great that you're giving back to the age group, and it's super important because with social media, it's a great tool, but it can also
Yeah.
create some negative effects as well. So, well, ladies, I've come up on 34 minutes. I've already gone over. We could have probably done this conversation for even longer, so we'll have to have you back on, and I'm looking forward to meeting you guys in person at the New York event, or definitely Beverly Hills or Phoenix. So for those of you watching at home and listening, you'll get to see these two on the show more often. Megan and Megan, anywhere you want to kind of point people to connect with you individually, but most importantly, where they can get involved with Modern Day Wives?
Yeah, you can go to our handle on Instagram at The Modern Day Wife, but also we are having an event in New York on February 7th. And if you go to the Modern Day Wife Instagram to our link in bio, you can get tickets, or if you want to sponsor, you can DM us. And then I don't know if it shows our names, but our handles are our names. So at Meagan Fialkoff, at Meagan Alief. The spelling is quite complicated. So just Google Modern Day Wife, Meagan and Meagan, and I'm sure the names will come up. Meagan, I don't know if you want to spell yours out, but I think go to at the Modern Day Wife, get your tickets for New York, DM us if you want to sponsor. We would love to meet you. And we're so happy to have had this opportunity to chat with you as well, Dylan.
Of course, of course. Well, thanks so much for coming on the show. So for everybody at home watching, don't forget to subscribe or follow us wherever you might be watching or listening. If you leave us a positive review, that's how the show finds a more organic audience. And most importantly, if there's a woman in your life who wants to get better at marriage, wants to get better at taking care of her home, wants to connect with other awesome women and continue to grow their business, don't forget to share the episode with someone you think might enjoy the conversation that I had with Megan and Megan tonight. So with that, Megan and Megan, thanks so much for coming and signing off from CES Las Vegas. We'll see you all very shortly. Bye-bye.